Most people don't know, but during the last 3 years of Napoleon Hill's life, he mentored a man who went on to become hugely successful business leader, Ben Gay. But, further down, you'll be able to join us as we discover how to really, in caps, emphasize, use the laws of success originally compiled from more than 500 of the most successful business people. Of course, that was in the book. But when you say really in bold, this makes me wonder something about you, Ben. And this isn't, I have some notes about you and some people I want to ask you about and stuff, but it comes up for me now. I get into this debate with some people. I want to train anybody that's interested in selling or succeeding. I always want to train them, mentor them, help them out. And I believe that, for example, with your book and other ways, and self-management, management of your own state, making some decisions, taking in some education that you choose, that salespeople are not born. They can, if you want to do it, you can do it. And I hear sometimes, and you've probably heard this too, and I'm not trying to compare myself to you because I've never hit your numbers, but I've been a mentor, a coach, a boss. But that's you. I can't do what you do. And that makes me crazy because that negates all of, for example, reading your book over and over and over again, trying to absorb it. It means that, for example, the person at the driving range who hits 9 million buckets of balls, or the professional basketball player that throws 10,000 free throws, it was just some natural talent and not all that work that they put into it. But in your case, I kind of want to say, but I'm not you, which always bothers me when people say that to me. Because what you accomplished so young, and what you say about, as Albert Einstein said in the above quote, in theory and practice are the same, but in practice, they're not. You've got some unbelievable, inhuman, running a 3-minute mile accomplishments. Like anyone in sales knows an 86% closing rate or a 50% closing rate, or probably even a 40% closing rate lifetime is not realistic. Scientists said the human body can't run the 4-minute mile, right?
And now high school girls are doing it.
Only because the first person did it.
Yeah, because Roger Bannister did it, and then I forget what his name was now. That's when you're second, it's easy to forget who you were. But Roger Bannister, et cetera, and they were studying him for weeks afterward to see if his heart would explode. And then I repeat, high school girls are doing it now. So a huge part of, training, all that stuff.
They believe it's possible, or their coach tells them that it's possible, but they're not being told with pragmatic scientific fact that it's impossible. But when you're talking about the laws of success from Napoleon Hill and on this site, thelastprotege.com, I mean, is this sort of like a mystic, staying in a cave for 3 years in solitary studying this stuff? I mean, are you getting it at a level that you feel like most people who just read the book and put it away aren't? Or do you feel like it's right in front of people's noses if they would just pay attention? Is it frustrating for you that they don't see it the way you see it?
Yes. Because, first of all, let's go through my credentials. I'm a high school graduate, barely. I lasted in college 3 weeks, just long enough to be elected president of the freshman class, but I wasn't there when they swore the president of the class in. I've always maintained the inauguration should be much closer to the election. To go through the election and then have the inauguration sometime further out than 3 weeks, I don't think is fair. And to get my high school diploma, I was thrown out of public school, and because my family had some money, I wasn't sent to reform school. I was sent to a private school, St. Andrew's Prep School up in the hills of Tennessee. That was an interesting experience I won't bore you with, but I don't recommend it. And then I got thrown out of there. Actually, I ran away, hitchhiked back to Atlanta, but because I did that, they threw me out. So I graduated from high school barely. My father said it must have been based on height. You get to 5'10", they give you a diploma, because it certainly wasn't based on achievement. Back to the talent thing, there are people who are born to be especially charming and gracious. Zig is one. Zig had to learn how to sell, and he was taught how to sell, by J. Douglas Edwards. You alluded to his book. I wrote it for him after he died, Sales Closing Power, just because he didn't write a book. But I took it from my notes of what he said and his recordings. But Zig was trained technically by J. Douglas Edwards. He would have been the most popular guy in town without training, but he didn't start making serious money till he got trained and joined a company that could magnify his talents. I had zero talents, but here's one thing people say: how'd you become president of the United Freudian slip. I wanted to be president of the United States. How did you become president of Holiday Magic 2 years after you started? Well, it wasn't 2 years after I started. I started selling at age 10 when I won a red Columbia bicycle for selling more Krispy Kreme donuts than any kid in Atlanta. So that's sort of where I started. And I was selling Christmas cards and stuff before that. But that's the first time I worked and they gave me something for it, age 10. At 14, I started my own business because my father told me I wasn't going to be sitting around the house all summer long mowing lawns. And I don't like manual labor, didn't then, don't now. So I figured out a way with his help to go out and solicit and sell the jobs, and then to come back and inspect them, and then to split the money with whoever did the work. And the little trick there was, our pricing was, when we're done, you pay us what you think it's worth, which meant people paid us 2, 3, 4 times what I would have dared ask for. And so when I split that with a guy who did the work, he had more money than he would have had if he'd done solicited the job, and he wouldn't have solicited to start with. That's the breakdown. You got to go up and talk to a stranger. So in the growing season in Atlanta, I had 20, 25 kids working for me. In the non-growing season, it would drop down to 7 or 8. But I was splitting money with 25 employees, having done the sales job and the collecting and the inspecting from 14 on. So by the time I got to president of Holiday Magic, and how impressive that is, I've been selling and winning things for 15 years. I'd owned my own business for 10, 11 years before that. And then I'd become the number one guy at Macy's and so on. So I didn't wander into Holiday Magic. Zig used to talk about the guy who gets to the top of Mount Everest. When they ask him, how'd you do it? He never says, well, I was out wandering around and I came to the top of this mountain.
This has been Jeff Stearns, Connected Through Cars.